My name is Neil Coates. I'm the missions chairperson at the Hillcrest Church of Christ in Abilene, Texas. Our elders asked our missions team to make a short video about the 50th reunion of the Mutare School of Preaching in eastern Zimbabwe. Fortune Mashanga, one of our missions team members, recently was able to attend this event held on December 5 of this year and has come back to report to the congregation about those good events. Also, while he was there, he firsthand saw some of the suffering that's going on among Christians and others in Zimbabwe. So we wanted to share this video with our congregation and with others who visit our website so they can know more about the things that are going on in Zimbabwe.
The Churches of Christ in Zimbabwe date back to 1896, when a stonemason and missionary from New Zealand named John Sheriff came to what was then called Southern Rhodesia. The first American missionary, a man named W.N. Short, arrived in 1921. And then in 1939, the Noe Mission was established, about 100 kilometers southeast of Harare, the capital of the country. Noe Mission is situated on about 2,000 acres of prime farmland, and it has a primary and a secondary school, a church, and now a very nice hospital. Later in the 1950s, the need for training indigenous preachers became apparent. And so under the leadership of Loy Mitchell and Roy Palmer, the Noe Bible College was established in 1958. 5 years later, two elders at the Hillcrest Church of Christ, Owen Mitchell, the father of Loy, and J.C. McCurdy, who's still with us today, were instrumental in establishing a relationship between Hillcrest and the Noe Bible College. During the last half century of this school's existence, this nation has gone from being a colony of the United Kingdom, known as Rhodesia, through a civil war, to independence and becoming the nation of Zimbabwe, to becoming a very wealthy and successful breadbasket for all of Southern Africa, and now to a period of devastation and economic ruin. But during all of this time, this school has flourished. Over 380 preachers have been trained. Over 400 congregations of the Churches of Christ have been established throughout the country and throughout the region as a result of these preachers. Paul Chimangwe came to Abilene to study for 2 years to get his master's degree in Bible. And during that time, Paul and I and others spent many hours in thought and in prayer talking about a vision for the school. One was to improve the quality of the school. A second major goal had to do with sustainability. Even back in 2001, signs of difficulty were very present, but no one could have predicted the challenges that they face today. In 2003, Paul began, along with others there at the school, to develop several programs to help the school become more self-sustaining. They introduced drip irrigation and they cultivated their own crops, their own vegetables. They developed a small herd of cattle to provide meat. They built a poultry run to provide eggs and chickens. And then there was a search for water. For the last few years, the water supply has been intermittent and unreliable. And so a couple of years ago, we worked together with a school to try to drill for water. Several of these projects have come to a successful conclusion now. And recently, the school celebrated its 50th anniversary, its golden anniversary. One of our members, Fortune Mashanga, was able to go and attend on behalf of all of us. It's interesting to note that Fortune is from Zimbabwe. His father, Samson Mashanga, was one of the two people who helped build the very first church building for the Churches of Christ in Zimbabwe in 1932. His brother Washington is a leader in the church in Harare. We're very grateful that Fortune was able to make this trip, and we celebrate with the people in Zimbabwe and the school, the Mutare School of Preaching, with this tremendous achievement.
My name is Fortune Mhlanga. I'm a native of Zimbabwe, and I'm also in the Foreign Missions Committee at Hillcrest. I'd like to thank Hillcrest for sponsoring my trip to Zimbabwe. And more importantly, I'm thankful to Hillcrest for the long-standing relationship that Hillcrest has had with Zimbabwe in the furtherance of God's work. On December 5, we celebrated 50 years of Mutare School of Preaching existence. The occasion was very well attended with more than 1,200 people. Despite the economic hardships that have befallen the country, I could see a lot of joy in people's eyes as they celebrated what God has done in Zimbabwe. Representative speeches were read on behalf of the board of the school, on behalf of local churches in Zimbabwe, on behalf of local preachers, and on behalf of Ladies Fellowship. And then Loy Mitchell gave a representative speech on behalf of USA missionaries. And I gave a representative speech on behalf of Hillcrest. I read congratulatory letters from John Tyson, J.C. McCurdy, Everett Ferguson, Jerry and Kay Hayes, and Jim Perry. And I also presented a plaque from Hillcrest and a picture of J.C. McCurdy, which was highly appreciated by Mutare School of Preaching. We proceeded to the official opening of the water tank. It is important to realize that more than half of the population in Zimbabwe are without water, let alone food. Ironically, the water tank was officially opened on the very day that the water came to the school. Loy Mitchell did the official opening of the water tank. The water tank project has been supported by Hillcrest starting about 2 years ago when they started collecting funds for it. We proceeded on to the rededication of the Jeanette and Janice Kiefer Library. This was a very moving moment as I read Eugene Kiefer's letter that had been written for the people over there. I couldn't help but shed a tear as I saw my fellow Zimbabweans also shedding tears when I read about the humble life or lives that had been led by these two ladies. In Zimbabwe, we value a culture of reading. And so this initiative with the books that have been sent for the library is very, very important for us. On December 6, 3 couples and 2 single gentlemen graduated from the school. The graduation ceremony was a celebration indeed, and these are preachers that are going to go into all the 4 corners of Zimbabwe to spread the word of God. Finally, I had meetings with the board and also the teaching staff. With the board, we just met to look at a vision for Zimbabwe for the next 3 to 5 years.
You most likely have heard of the political difficulties in Zimbabwe. Now, these things have led to an unprecedented situation in which up to half the population is at risk from disease. We cannot change the government of President Robert Mugabe, but we can reach out to Christians and to whom they minister to. The NOE Missions Board of Directors has requested immediate help with medicine and food. They have just developed a plan in which Healing Hands International will airlift medicines for 20,000 cholera treatments to arrive by about Christmas time. Healing Hands provides relief assistance to Church of Christ mission points around the world, and NOE's hospital is one of the few functioning in Zimbabwe. NOE's board is about to send its 6 owned trucking containers, only for a cost of $10,000 each, to South Africa to return with needed food items such as cooking oil, corn, dried beans, and other items. Donations can be made to myself or to any of the elders, and in the memo section of the check, Zimbabwe Relief Fund can be written. For those persons who watch this video who are not Hillcrest members, they can send checks to this congregation or to the East Point Church in Wichita, Kansas. Mutare and NOE are powerful instruments in the hands of God. Thank you for helping during these past 5 decades in those 2 mission points efforts.